What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Fourth and Fantasy Podcast. My name's Meek. I'm here with my co-host, Wu.
How we doing?
Wu, what's going on today, man?
Oh, I'm just really excited to keep talking about these rookies, man. It's been really fun doing this.
Absolutely.
And this is the perfect time of year to be talking about it.
Right? And got a ton of NFL news that I'm excited to talk about.
Major weekend, like out of nowhere.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? I think people are just prepping, like teams are prepping and getting ready for the upcoming free agency that, you know, quote unquote starts on Monday, but really starts on Wednesday. Yeah. I don't know. It's all craziness.
Legal tampering.
Right. So a couple of quick things. New logo.
Yes.
Right.
Shout out my boy Chris. You're the GOAT.
Yeah. We appreciate you, Chris. Logo looks fire. You're going to start seeing that on our socials and things like that. That's awesome to see. We have officially hit 430 plus plays across Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube.
Nuts.
Love it. Keep giving us love. You know, we're having a great time. Make sure you're following us on all of our socials: Twitter at Fourth and Fantasy Pod, Instagram and TikTok at Fourth and Fantasy, YouTube at Fourth and Fantasy. Please give us follow on our socials. Leave a comment. You never know. You might see yourself on the show.
Yes, sir.
I know last episode where we talked about how we joined a couple of dynasty leagues and things like that, and you know the Final Four listener league with the Fantasy Trading Room. Just want to give the people a quick little update on our squad, how we're doing. So it's a slow play. We're still in the draft, but we are 15 rounds in. And I'm going to share with the team right now. So round one, we rocked it off. We took Amon-Ra St. Brown. I thought that was a smash pick. Also, interesting thing about this draft is the way it is formatted. We take kickers and those count towards our upcoming rookie draft. So like if you take, you know, the first kicker off the board, you have the 101, so on and so forth until 48 kickers are taken off the board. And that was 4 rounds of rookie picks. So we came back, we took a kicker with our second pick, you know, 101. I'm just going to put everybody on notice. We're taking Ashton Genty.
Yeah, it's a lock.
And then we followed it up. We have Devon Achane, Kyron Williams.
Christmas came early with that one.
Oh, I love that Kyron Williams pick. That was awesome. So we got a three pack of stud running backs right now. We went late on quarterback. We ended up taking Dak Prescott.
I don't hate it though.
No,
he's had big years. You know, I think the Cowboys' offense is still going to be good. New coaching or new head coach. So I mean, I'm not that mad at it.
Yeah, and hopefully we get a good.
I would have just liked that golf stack. That would have been nice.
Oh, that would have been great. Yeah, but he ended up going way earlier.
Yeah.
Because there was another team that took 4 straight quarterbacks, and then Goff was their 4th one. I don't know. Then we had Terry McLaurin as our wide receiver 2. Which is not bad paired with Jaden Daniels. Followed it up with another kicker, so a rookie pick. We actually landed the 109, which is nice.
Gives us some options.
And then in round 8, we nailed Tyreek Hill.
What can go wrong when he's your wide receiver 3?
Right.
That was my thought process. You know, he could explode.
I was gonna say, I think people are super down on him because he had the bad year,
right.
And then I saw something recently that he rescinded the trade request.
Oh, he did.
So he doesn't want out in Miami.
Okay.
So he's gonna come back to Miami now.
Tua, stay on the field, man.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So who knows? Maybe we get a repeat of 2023.
That'd be nice.
That would be insane. Then we had Khalil Shakir just locked up a new deal.
Free 10 points every week, pretty much.
Kincaid is our tight end. We got another rookie pick, Geno. We'll get into him later, but at the time we drafted him thinking he was Seattle's quarterback. Now he's not. Then we went Pollard, Blake Corum, and then we have Dobbs. So right now we're waiting for us to come back around. But yeah, that's a quick update on our squad.
I like it so far.
I do too.
We're in a good spot.
I do too. So we're gonna flow that right into our quick question of the day, Wu. We're talking about combine risers and fallers. So name one player who has improved their stock and one player who has hurt their stock from the scouting combine last week.
So my first riser is going to be Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas.
Yeah.
One of 2 wide receivers from Texas in this draft, and performed at the combine. And this was not the name that people were expecting, a big performance out of. He runs a 4.29 40. That's the fastest, out of all the receivers and all the running backs, I believe. I don't know about the defensive side of the ball, but it might have been the fastest 40 just at the combine to begin with. I liked what I saw out of Golden. While he was at Texas, he wasn't that necessarily that wide receiver one. It was really more Isaiah Bond.
It's such an enigma that like now, because I'm looking into wide receivers and looking at how Texas kind of ran their offense. There was no like major player, and obviously like Golden came on strong in the college football playoff, but it's so weird.
And he's 6 foot, 195. He's a bigger receiver, and clearly he's quick. So I like all of that. I like his intangibles. And his name has shot up, draft boards. Just straight NFL, but also rookie drafts and dynasty. So he's a name I want to start paying attention to way more.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. So the riser for me that I had was Jackson Dart. I sat here on this podcast and I told everyone that if Jackson Dart rips it in the combine, don't be surprised if you see him go into the first round. And he did exactly what we had hoped. And I'm not going to be shocked if a team in the late first round takes him as a draft pick. I know that as a Jet fan, that hurts.
He's probably not a Jet after that combine, which kind of sucks. But
and he's talented and he's young. He's the youngest one in the class, so like he's moldable. You can work with him. Like he is probably one of the few quarterbacks where like you could probably put him out there. He starts a couple of games. If he gets isn't playing well, you pull him and he can learn a little bit more because he's only 21 years old. Like I think teams are going to prioritize that when they're drafting, and he's someone that to me, like, he definitely would benefit from sitting for a year, but like he's someone now I can see it come in and start day one and be a quarterback for a team.
Yeah, that young age gives you a lot of flexibility when you're when teams are drafting him and his development. He was, the conductor of a very explosive offense in the SEC.
Yeah.
So clearly he can do it.
Being an SEC quarterback, like it's huge because you play NFL talent every single week. You know what I mean? So I'm excited.
Yeah.
What about a faller? Who was a faller you had?
Unfortunately, it's going to be your guy, Will Howard. It was pretty bad then. It was pretty bad. That drill where they had the receivers run some slants and some outs and some ins and some deep balls, and man, some of his misses were really bad.
Yeah.
The combine, I think we get kind of wrapped up in it a little bit too much. These kids, it's like a job interview, so there's a lot of pressure on these guys, especially with how much coverage it gets these days. It's all over TV. I feel like back in the day, you kind of just, saw clips here and there.
It was during the day, but back in the day where like, I remember when I was in college and like in lectures and I had it pulled up like, and then when I'm sitting in the middle of the lecture now, it's like broadcasted like
primetime TV.
You know what I mean?
It was unfortunate to see that performance out of Will Howard. I'm not going to sit here and say that performance at the combine is gonna, that's the litmus test for the rest of his career.
No, and I also think, like you said, it's a job interview and there's a lot of pressure. He's throwing to guys he's never thrown to before.
Also true.
I hope he bounces back at his pro day.
Yeah.
When he's throwing to guys that he's a lot more comfortable with.
Right.
And hopefully that he can stabilize himself.
Yeah. The thing that just really sucked is there was some pretty easy throws that he was missing pretty badly.
Yeah.
But we'll chalk it up to nerves. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
My faller is another Texas player, Mr. Isaiah Bond, who pounded the table saying he was going to be Xavier Worthy's 40 time.
Yeah, that was stupid.
And my whole thing is, don't say anything. You know what I mean? Like, or say like, I'm gonna run like a 4.5. And then
exactly.
you I don't know. I forget the name of the phrase, but like then you surprise people. It's like, oh, he said he was running a 4.5 and he runs like a 4.3.
No, like, why are you putting a target on your back? Yes. You're not even drafted yet.
Yeah. So he's definitely a faller for that. You know what I mean? He's definitely a good talent, but again, like going back to these Texas wide receivers, it's like they very rarely produced, and it's it's hard to get a gauge on where they are. So he's a faller for me.
Yep, I like that.
Moving in, like we said at the top of the show, we have a lot of NFL news to talk about. Like even some stuff that had broke today, Saturday, March 8th.
Yep.
So we'll get into those things. Actually, no, we'll start with that. So first piece of news that actually broke this morning. Xavier Worthy was arrested last night for I believe it was an assault on a family member.
Yeah, impeding their ability to breathe.
Yeah, so
that's not a good look.
Not a good look. You know what I mean? And the Chiefs also have problems dealing with Rashee Rice.
Yep.
So
Which,
now,
by the way, when are we going to hear about that legal trouble?
I believe you're gonna start seeing that come probably training camp. We'll see. Obviously Rice is coming off the ACL, and but I think there will be a decision definitively coming up. But sidebar, saw some video of him working out, doing some single leg
looking good,
box jumps. Looking very strong.
Man, I had him for those first 3 or 4 weeks.
Right?
It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I have him in Dynasty, so I'm excited. But back to Worthy. So we'll have to see how this plays out. I'm sure what you see mostly in situations like this, the NFL will let the player kind of play out the season, and then you'll see a disciplinary action happen the following season.
Yeah.
So you might not see any disciplinary action for Worthy this upcoming year, but definitely you'll probably see something coming down the pipeline.
It's something to follow, pay attention to. It sucks because he was someone I was kind of paying attention to in Dynasty. Maybe as a trade target, I liked what I saw. The back half of the year and even into the playoffs. But you can't be doing that, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say wait till you hear more information, about it. I'm not gonna say definitively, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But let's hypothetically say he gets like a 6-game, 8-game suspension.
Right.
Still could be worth trading for.
Yeah.
Because it's Dynasty. You're gonna have him forever,
True.
and maybe the manager who's in a win now mode with Worthy might want to just kind of trade him off. You never know.
Yeah.
Next piece of major news that we got last night, Geno Smith traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. He gets a reunion with Pete Carroll, and the Raiders only gave up a third for him. So what do you think? What are some fantasy implications for this? It could be for the Las Vegas side, could be for the Seattle side, but what are you feeling?
Definitely to start, just a shocking trade. This is not the direction I thought Vegas would be going. I thought they were more in the free agent class or via the draft gonna find their next quarterback, but I like the move. I still think Geno's got a couple years left in him. He's kind of I think he's like a mid-tier NFL quarterback for me as well with fantasy. He did have that really good 23 season. In terms of fantasy for Seattle, really bad for JSN, which is unfortunate because I liked him coming into this year. I thought he was going to be someone who could take that next step. He finished as well, like the wide receiver 8 last year.
Yeah, wide receiver 9.
Yeah, so I was, it's disappointing for him. I'm not sure what direction they'll go for quarterback. Maybe it might be good for Kenneth Walker. He gets a lot more work if they're going to turn their focus on offense to running the ball more. Yep. That's good for your guy. And then on the Vegas side, Brock Bowers, he was a dog to begin with. Now he's got someone who can actually throw the ball consistently.
Yep.
So I love that for him. Jacoby Myers now is an interesting name. As like a kind of like a wide receiver 3 kind of guy. And then maybe Vegas still wants to draft somebody later in the draft, let him sit behind Geno for a year or two. But yeah, the reunion with Pete Carroll, it should be fun to see.
Yeah, this we talked about this pre-show, and this tells me that Vegas is not willing to they're not going for it right off the bat, which I think is a smart play. I think this reunion with Carroll, you have the head coach and the quarterback kind of all on the same page, but this kind of gives Vegas a little bit of flexibility to go down different avenues with their first pick. They have the 6th pick in the draft. They could still take a quarterback if one were to fall to them, and they can sit behind Geno, which you don't have the pressure of say they brought in someone like Fields or someone like that. There's no pressure to bring in the rookie right away because Geno is tried and true.
And this is the class to do that.
Right. So they could go down that route. They could also go down the route of taking a blue chip player, you know what I mean? They could take Tet McMillan, and ride out the year with Geno because this is a contract year for Geno, and I think I heard he was looking for like 30 to 35 million. So I think it per year, but I think this is going to be a tryout almost for Geno, and if he plays well, he might play himself into a contract, or if not, the Raiders can kick him to the curb and really pay attention to the 2026 draft, because we know that the quarterback class is a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
But like you said, for JSN, this definitely does hurt, but
it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, and what I think you're going to see is I think they're going to get Darnold. honestly.
Yeah, that's just not a team that I was expecting to be anywhere, in this conversation.
And I think, Darnold fits that system with what they're going to want to do now. It's a Clint Kubiak system, so it's a Kyle Shanahan 49ers offense where he was I think Darnold was there before, right?
Yeah, he didn't really play, but he was definitely in San
so
Fran.
he was entrenched in that system, and I think that's going to work. But like you said, Kenneth Walker goes up. I TBD on JSN. I think it takes a hit, but we'll have to wait and see because Mr. DK Metcalf requested a trade.
Yeah.
So if Metcalf is out and JSN is the wide receiver 1 in town, I don't see that as bad.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might be neutral. You know what I mean?
Just depends who's throwing on the ball.
Correct. And if Metcalf's not there, that's another target that you kind of take off the board and JSN moves up.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll roll right into the Metcalf DK Metcalf requesting a trade. I don't think it was surprising when it happened because I think it was right after they released Tyler Lockett.
It's kind of like they were just blowing it up.
And it's kind of crazy because they were a 10-win team last year, and then it's like, okay, let's just blow this whole thing up. But
I don't get it.
Where are you feeling for Metcalf? Do you have any gut feelings?
I know your Chargers are definitely going to be an option.
Yeah.
They're desperate for another
I think
pass catcher.
there was a report that came out too that they were silently aggressive, like going for him before he had requested the trade. So they're probably going for him. But anywhere else?
I think what I saw, what Seattle wants is they kind of want like a first and a third, or at least that's kind of like their target value.
Tough.
That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I think DK's obviously an exceptional talent. And
right.
Just a freak athlete.
But if you let's think back, we'll go back in the time machine, right? Like the last time like a wide receiver 1 got traded was AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And AJ Brown was younger, probably around like the same like dominance level, but Metcalf's older and they're asking for a 3 on top of the 1.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I think that's a lot.
But could you with this news that comes out this morning, with the Kansas City Chiefs, do they make a run at this guy? Like, could you imagine him and Mahomes? You don't know what's going on with Rashee Rice between his injury and his legal trouble. Now Xavier Worthy's in trouble with the law. They had Juju Smith-Schuster out there last year catching passes. Like, how is that acceptable?
And it makes so much sense that it hurts because they just got blown out in the Super Bowl by Philly, and they had like a very stagnant offense. And something's got to change for them. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be that team that plays good defense and just like throws 5-yard slants. You're gonna have to put some talent on the offensive side.
Yeah,
and that would be a big splash. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I know. They do have to address the offensive line really bad. So maybe they're not gonna make that big time splash play, but it is just a team to be paying attention to.
Yeah. Couple other pieces of news. Gus Edwards got released by the Chargers.
That tells me they're going our running back in the draft.
Yeah, they're going to. Christian Kirk got traded to Houston for a 7th. So I think we were expecting some free agents. I know I was expecting Godwin going there.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's probable anymore.
Do you think they bring back Diggs for a year? I think that's more likely now.
Yeah, that could too.
Because Dell's done.
Yeah, I don't think Dell's going to play.
I think he just
year.
got surgery like last week.
He had gotten a second surgery. Yeah, because he got the first one to like clean it up, and then I think he got a second surgery to actually do the ACL. So he's definitely done for the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I could see Diggs coming back, and then the last one piece of news is Devontae Adams got released by the Jets. So there are a lot of now interesting names that have hit the free agency that I know a couple of weeks ago we were talking about our free agency predictions and these weren't on there.
Right.
I think Devontae Adams is probably the number 1 receiver to be a free agent.
He's still easily a top 12 guy. Fantasy wise and, just NFL talent.
Mm-hmm.
He's still very good. Got his release look good last year. You can still get, I would say 2 to 3 years, solid years out of him.
Definitely. Yeah. And I know he's been talking about wanting to go to a West Coast team. So
I think he's tied to Rodgers.
You think so?
I'd be very shocked if they go to different teams.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know though. I think
they're just at that point in their career where they think they can call the shots.
They're just going to do it together. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I respect it, but at the same time,
I'd be interested if he goes to the Chargers.
Yeah,
I would say I'd be intrigued about it.
You
I don't
can't
know.
be mad at it.
I don't know how much he can give, but and I don't know if he's like requesting a lot of targets because whatever receiver the Chargers go for, I don't expect a lot of targets. Like
Right.
they're still a run the football team and then work off play action.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if Adams is willing to do that, then hey,
Yeah.
welcome aboard. And a quick free agency cap update as we move into free agency. So again, starting Monday, you'll start to hear news of free agencies happening. So there were a lot of cuts and some extensions signed. So our new updated one as of March 8th. New England's still in first, 125 mil. Washington's in second with 94. The Chargers are in third with 93 mil. Arizona's in fourth with 77 million. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers sneaking up.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Also, speaking of Washington, we forgot the Debo trade.
Oh, that
was
is true.
Another one.
Yeah. And what was that? That was for a fifth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll see.
How old is Debo? 28.
I
can check that.
Yeah, I think he's in his upper 20s. But I think that
29.
29. Yeah. So that it's definitely an upgrade from what they had before, because I think all they had was Diami Brown and
Zacchaeus.
Yeah. So it's better than whatever wide receiver 2 they had. I think this is a boost for Terry McLaurin.
I agree.
I don't think if you're someone who has Terry McLaurin, don't be afraid, because
not at all.
this is only going to help and take eyes off of him. Assuming Debo can get back in shape, because did you see the pictures of him on social media?
No, is it not good?
Yeah, he's looking a little thick.
James Harden status.
Well, yeah, James Harden status, a little thick boy.
No.
But I think he notices that, and I think you're going to see Debo come back in some serious shape.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right, now we got through the news and everything else. We're going to get into the our topic of the show. I'm very excited to talk about this. We're going to be talking about rookie running backs. Just a quick overview of this rookie running back class. We're gonna talk about 5 of them, and then just a couple of extras once we get to the end of the show of guys you want to keep your eye on. But this rookie class is deep,
loaded. This is really hard ranking these guys.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Which is awesome, because I think us and Nate as fantasy players, you want to have that stud running back on your team.
Right.
That
It makes life so much easier.
It does, because you can slot him in every single week, barring injury. But like that guy's just gonna chug and give you points.
As someone who's had a dynasty team where I was down bad at running back, like. You feel that pain on a weekly basis.
Yeah. I'll just give a quick plug as to somebody who has a lot of first round picks in our upcoming rookie class. I will be hammering running backs all day long.
I'm not looking forward to your team in the next couple of years.
Yep. So what I also want to say, some people can disagree with me, but I'm gonna take the stance. This running back draft class is going to change the dynasty landscape. Obviously we're going to talk about the top 4 guys, where I think all 5 of these guys are going to be, other than like their landing spot, if they get good landing spots, these are going to be guys who are going to be top 12 dynasty running backs that you're going to want on your team. And it's almost like the perfect storm, Woo, because we have such a good draft class, but then there are so many running back needy teams that it's essential to their offense,
right?
Like the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Chargers, like you could throw the Saints in there too. You know what I mean? The Steelers. Like there are so many teams that run their offense through their running back, and there are running backs here that like it's insane. Now, I'm gonna also say that I don't see, you may see 1 or 2 go in the first round, but I'm not expecting a lot of running backs going in the first round, because there's so many of them.
Right. Teams they know they can get one at some point, and I don't think they're going to be mad at whoever they get.
No, they're not, and I think they're going to play chicken with everyone and say like, all right, like, are you going to take the guy first, or am I going to take the guy first?
Right.
Well, or I'll just take this, this defensive edge rusher, or take this cornerback, and then I'll take a running back.
And
later.
As soon as that, Genti's going to go early in my opinion, but as soon as that like second one goes, I wonder if there's going to be just a big run, because people don't want to miss out.
A lot of people trading up and trying to do stuff like that, so that'll be cool to see. So when we talk about each prospect, we we have our process. We talk about their pre-film and some of their stats and accolades. Post-film things, so our impressions and thoughts. We'll give you some comps, some best fits, and then just kind of overall impressions of the players and where do they land in our personal rankings.
Yeah.
So Wu has his own rankings. I have mine. It'll be very interesting to see. You ready?
Been ready.
Dude, I'm ready. So we're going to kick it off with Mr. Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State. Ashton Jeanty was the 2024 Maxwell Award winner, most outstanding college player. He was also the 2024 Doak Walker Award winner. He was the nation's top running back. And then he was also a unanimous All-American. All the flowers, everything.
Yep. Probably should have won the Heisman.
Probably should have won the Heisman, but we won't get into that. Also he's the first Boise State player ever to be a unanimous All-American. So that's kind of cool.
Also, just love that like blue uniform, blue field combo. It makes no sense, but it's awesome.
No, it's amazing.
It's so college football.
So in the pre-film stuff, I'm looking at 21 years old. He's great age, 215. He is 5'9". He's a little bit smaller, but when we talk about his post-film stuff, he uses that to his advantage.
Yes.
He had 374 attempts, and he still had 7 yards per carry, which is insane.
Nuts.
Most carries in the class, of course, but he was able to parlay that with 2,601 yards. Like he's a freak of nature, and I know. Josh Rondo, I know you're there screaming at the podcast. He played in a JV league, whatever. Listen,
high school football league,
whatever you want to call it, Rondo. But the man put up 2,600 yards and he had 29 rushing touchdowns. Like you can't deny that from this man.
Yeah.
I think he can probably do it in the passing game. He only had 138 yards, but it's just because he was just busting runs all
I think
over.
The receiving game is absolutely there if needed.
Yeah.
Maybe not an insane volume, but it's usable.
Yeah. So when I went into and this is for all running backs, the way I broke it down for them, I broke it into 6 categories. I broke it into power, like how powerful were they? Were they able to run through arm tackles, or were they able to run over players? Their vision, were they able to, see the small gaps, when they're running in between the tackles? Their balance, like if they got hit, were they able to kind of stay up, or did they fall over?
Mm-hmm.
Their burst, long speed, and their catching. So that's how I kind of broke it down. So.
Yep.
When I talk about, when I looked at Jeanty, his power was insane. He took on any contact and he either like absorbed it. Like it was weird. Like he would run into like a pile and like bounce off and then like run around and run the other way. It was insane.
Yes.
And he definitely had the power to, run over players, but he had an awesome stiff arm.
Absolutely.
I thought his stiff arm was elite.
Oh yeah.
His vision was outstanding. His balance, like I said, took contact and was just able to I picture him as like, the pinball, like in a pinball machine, like just bouncing off everything and just keep going. That's what I saw him as. His burst was not as much as I hoped, but he did use it very well. He had some great jump cuts, but he was slow to get going, almost like how Derrick Henry gets. You know what I mean? Where he needs that little bit of space to get going, and then once he gets going,
it's tough to catch him.
He's got good long speed. You know what I mean? So I his long speed was good when he got going, and then I said he actually had some good hands. You know what I mean when given the chance. What were your impressions on Ashton Jeanty?
Yeah. So one of my first things was he doesn't necessarily have that home run speed where you just touched on where, he breaks through the line of scrimmage and all of a sudden he's gone right away. It takes that time to build up, but once he gets there, like once he reaches his top speed, I mean, see you later. And plus he's just tough to bring down to begin with. So even if dudes are catching up to him, he's not letting that affect him.
Yeah.
Really good at reading his upfield blockers and using angles to get more yards, not even necessarily beating them with speed, but just that angle that he's taking, making defenders have to think about it for a second and take that wrong step and seeing where he has his blockers in front of him. Always has his head upfield reading the defense. His head is never down. Whether it's while he's waiting for the snap or, while he's running the football, his head is always moving, always looking forwards, which I like. Really quick feet, especially around the line. Yep. If he's bouncing off a tackle, he's hitting another hole immediately. It's not something that, he's thinking twice about. It's boom, I know where I'm going. when you talked about your 6 categories, I wasn't as specific, but those all were things I was kind of like mentally doing on my checklist.
Yep.
But another thing I wanted to look at was, their pass protection. He is absolutely willing to take a hit when he's blocking. I'm not exactly a connoisseur when it comes to running backs blocking, but if I see a guy who's willing to just run into a linebacker just to give his quarterback an extra couple seconds,
but I think that's huge though too, because if you're a rookie running back in the NFL, and if you can't pass pro, like you don't see the field.
Yeah.
Like we talk about that with Jahmyr Gibbs in his rookie season.
Yep.
Like he struggled with his pass pro, and so he didn't get on the field as much as you hope. But that year under the belt, and he was able to really shine. But like if you can come out of the draft, or out of college pass proing, like that's a huge upgrade.
Yes, and it's also it is a skill, but I think it's also very coachable, and it's more just like a willingness to do it, a want to do it, like providing that effort. But I did see, I do think he's absolutely willing to take those hits and block for his quarterback, which I like to see. That helps his case for being a 3-down running back, and constantly being on the field, which is what we're anticipating. I think he can easily be a pass catching back. It just wasn't an aspect of their offense.
No.
So depending on the situation,
well, I mean, when you can give the ball to him and he just breaks off
also
like 60, 70 yard runs, like why pass the ball to him?
Exactly. But I think that can easily be a part of his game. At some magnitude. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
And then I just have incredibly agile.
Mm-hmm.
Like his angles. I heard a lot about this, like being skinny, finding little holes and moving your shoulders, changing your body angle. I think he was really good at that, and it helps him get those extra yards, especially when he doesn't have that, that quick burst right at the line of scrimmage. He can still maneuver his way around those linebackers. And then just disgusting jump cuts. Like as soon as he puts that foot into the ground, it's
done.
Boom, like see you later.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really liked what I saw, and I'm not shocked by anything that I saw.
No. Yeah. The other two small pieces that I had was, we talk about like almost as a negative for him as being 5'9", but that he uses it to his advantage because people can't get as low, with him, even if he gets lower. So like, it uses, it's a benefit for him.
Yeah.
And he's a downhill runner. You know what I mean? Like he will take the ball and he will run it at your face.
Run right through your chest.
So I had 2 comps for him. I had said it before, I see him as a mini Derrick Henry, you know what I mean? It like takes him a little bit to go, but once he gets going, like you can't stop the train.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I love so much is like a blast from the past. He reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew.
Wow.
Yeah. Like smaller guy, bowling ball type, but like when he gets going, you can't stop him.
I really
and he's
like
got
that.
And he's got a nasty stiff arm. So those were my comps for Ashton Jeanty, and I loved it so much. What about you?
So I don't know what it is, but as soon as I saw this guy at the beginning of the year, for whatever reason, I was just thinking Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know what it was. I have him as a smaller Zeke, paired with like Saquon's agility, just ability to make defenders miss. Maybe he's not as quick as Saquon. I don't care. That agility piece is still absolutely there, making guys miss around the line of scrimmage. In that short space where he doesn't have a lot of room to work. Like he's finding ways to get around these dudes. But yeah, it's that Zeke piece. I just, for whatever reason, it just makes sense in my head. I don't know if other people see it, but that's just what I've seen this whole time.
I like that. My question for you, and it kind of rolls into our best fits. Is there anywhere Jeanty could go that doesn't make him the 101?
I mean, unless, I'm thinking of starting running backs off the top of my head, I was just going to start with James Cook, but then I think I would absolutely take Jeanty over Cooks, depending on how he looked.
Yeah.
I think Breece, I don't like if he goes to the Jets, I think Breece is absolutely, a better option. I just think Gibbs, his ability, his bona fide like receiving ability it would be an issue for Jeanty. Bijan if he goes to Atlanta, but there's only like a select few teams where there would be an issue.
Okay.
And I also don't think those teams would take him to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't even think that would really be a problem.
All right. So where do you think his best fits are?
So I have 3, and
like
it's really. I think he goes in the first round. Absolutely. He's honestly being projected to go a lot higher than I was originally anticipating. But all these teams are in the first round for me, and I think it just depends on who doesn't take him. The other team, takes him with that next pick. So my first one is Dallas. I said that from the jump.
Yep.
I would be shocked if he is there and they let him get past them. He played his high school games in Jerry's world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let the kid go back and play in Dallas. They've been missing that running game. I think this would be a guy that could turn it around. It would be his backfield immediately. Rico Dowdle shouldn't really be that big of a threat. And and like I said, he played his high school games there. My other one is the Chargers. They're huge on their run game.
I would lose it. I'd lose it.
He would absolutely. They could lean on him immediately. He would have a field day with this offense. Especially being with Justin Herbert. If J.K. Dobbins can push for 1,000 yards after all these injuries, I can only imagine what Genty can do. And Harbaugh loves his run game, and you'd be able to lean on, a superstar potential talent like Genty. And I think that'd just be a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
And then my last one is Denver. If, God forbid, these two teams let them slide, Denver needs one, like they need air.
Yes.
So, again, Genty would slot in perfectly. They do pick before LA. They actually pick before LA, so I take that back. So, if Dallas doesn't take him, they do need somebody bad. And so it'd be something to watch, out of them. And Sean Payton had a lot of success with Kamara. They have a little bit different running styles, but just Sean Payton's offensive mind, I think it would be a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, and to your point of Denver, I think Sean Payton does it with multiple running backs, and so he has a run between the tackles, and he has pass catching, and they already kind of have a pass catching one with Jaleel McLaughlin there. So he would just kind of slot in as your between the tackles kind of guy, but it can also catch, and he probably gets the majority of the work.
Yep.
My fits, I also had Dallas in LA, so I'm not gonna go over those again, and I think they're great fits. I don't think LA gets them, but I'm not upset because there's so many other.
I mean,
he's
going way higher now.
Right, but I had a third one, and it's starting to actually like come to fruition for me a little bit is the Chicago Bears. We didn't talk about it in the news, but the Bears made two huge splashes for offensive line.
Yep.
Yes, obviously they want to protect their franchise quarterback Caleb Williams, but Joe Tooney and I think it's Jonas. I can't remember his last name, but he came from the Rams. But those two players added to that offensive line, they're huge. You know what I mean?
And they don't necessarily have to use that 9th pick on offensive linemen now.
Now they don't, right? And I could see them using it on Genty. And now you give Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. You give him two pieces on an offensive line, and then you give him Ashton Genty to hand the ball off. Like that's insane. You know what I mean? So that was my only other fit that I had that I thought like with those moves this past week, I think could be something that's legit.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. They did commit a lot of money to Swift. But, I don't think he's necessarily been exactly what they wanted to, especially with the money that they gave him.
And so it's also not their guy. You know what I mean? Like, Ben Johnson.
Yeah, new regime.
Yeah, it's a new regime. He came from Detroit. They shipped DeAndre Swift out, so it's like I don't think they're married to him. Right. You know what I mean? I think they would probably eat the money and just say, hey, listen, you're gonna take snaps secondary to this guy, and you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
So my overall thoughts, he's a stud. This guy's an overall stud. He's probably going to be the running back 3 in your startup drafts. We're doing a startup draft, and we took him as the running back 3. So and I think his superpower overall is being able to just like absorb contact, bounce off, and just keep it going, which is insane. And I think he's going to be an elite talent for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, I can sit here and echo all of that. He absolutely has the ability to be a workhorse. He creates all that contact, and he's still running for 70-yard plays, the next drive. So I'm not worried about him, being physical because I think he loves that. So that's why I'm totally okay with where we took him in our startup.
Yeah, so I think you and I both agree he's our number 1 running back coming out.
Not even close.
But when we break it into tiers, this next guy we're talking about, I put him in the same category.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
like I am over the moon in love with Omarion Hampton. And so Omarion Hampton, running back out of UNC, was the Gatorade Player of the Year in North Carolina in 2022. He was Mr. Football in North Carolina that same year. 2-time All-American, 2-time All-ACC first team. This guy was insane. He was someone in this North Carolina offense that put up at least 1,200 yards in 2 seasons, which is phenomenal. And he did it with multiple quarterbacks, and shifting pieces. This past year, I just want to hold on. Let me just double check. We're highlighting this year. Yes.
Yep.
So this past year, 1,600 yards. You know what I mean? Like obviously, Genty putting up 26 is insane, but like 1,600 yards is nothing to like turn your head to.
Not at all.
5.9 yards per carry. You love to see. He had a long rush to 75. 15 rushing touchdowns, which is a little bit low comparative to other players in this draft class, but like he is a specimen. You know what I mean? I pulled up his RAS score. So one of the big things that people were worried about him going into the combine was, is he that breakaway runner that we all hoped he was at? He was 221 pounds, came in at 5'11", but he scored a 9.61 RAS score. So RAS score is a relative athletic score that people in the fantasy community put out. The total you can get is out of 10. So a 9.61 is really, really good. And then to couple that with him running a 4.46 at 220 pounds, like what else is there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know. What were your thoughts pre-film for Omarion?
So I was completely unfamiliar with his game. I didn't watch any UNC this year. I think the only game I kind of tuned into was when JMU basically made their coach quit. Yeah. So I right off the bat, like I didn't know anything about him. So I liked what I saw. I love the 0 fumbles number this year. That's super important, his ball security.
Yep.
He had the 4th most passing usage out of his class this past season, which is nice. 3rd in the country in rushing yards, and then he goes to the combine and runs a 4.46. So it definitely piqued my interest. When it came to film, I watched his game versus FSU this year. Bully ball, loves the contact.
Yes.
Will absolutely run through your chest, has no problems doing it, and will get up and do it the next play and the next play and the next play. So I like to see that in terms of transferring to the NFL, and there's bigger guys that are going to hit you a lot harder. I don't think that'll be an issue for him. But one thing I will say is he's going to need to be able to make guys miss in the NFL. They are, like I just said, they're bigger, they're stronger. You might run into somebody and it might hurt a little bit more than the ACC did. He's a north-south runner. He's got crazy quick burst at the line of scrimmage. Like he is someone, we're just talking about Genty where he's got that good long speed. Hampton is someone who hits his first step and he is gone.
Yes.
Gone.
Yes.
So really quick burst. Has that breakaway speed, which makes me wonder why he likes creating contact so much, because he can outrun defenders. So I just think that's something he needs to, at least, bring into consideration. Like why do I need to run through this person's chest? If I can take a different angle and just beat him up the sideline. Yeah. That's something for me that
I think it's that like Derrick Henry mentality where it's like, I'm gonna bully you for all 4 quarters, and then you're gonna quit in the 4th quarter, and then I'm just gonna
listen,
run away.
I'm not saying it it's a crazy negative. It's just something for me where why try and run through somebody if he has that speed. Yep. So to me, that's just something I want to see him kind of think twice about. Mm-hmm. When he takes this jump to the NFL. Like I said, super physical. He doesn't really bounce to the outside a ton. It's really done between the tackles, which is interesting because again he has that breakaway speed. I'd like to see him get outside, and just smoke guys up the sideline.
Yeah, he is just like the note that I had here. Like one of my first notes, he looks like a prototypical NFL running back. You know what I mean? Like 6 foot, 5'11", 220 pounds, and he's just gonna run into your face. Mm-hmm. I had under power for him. Runs with a purpose. He has great drive. Yes. And he breaks through all arm tackles that are given. So like you need to wrap up 2 hands and take him to the ground. Mm-hmm. I put his vision was okay. Finds open space well. And I put can't tell if he's finding spaces or his O-line is making big holes for him. Mm-hmm. But then when he's in the open field though, he sees the field very well.
100%.
Makes great cuts, you know what I mean, to break away. He had good burst. He uses it in the right area, and it's not perfect, but I think he had the perfect burst in the red zone to find the end zone.
Yes.
Like some of the film I was watching, he just had a nose to like I'm gonna burst it here, like so I can just bust through and get to the end zone, which I think is gonna be huge because I think he's a 3-down back, but I think he's someone who's going to fit really well in a gap scheme offense where it's not a lot of outside zone runs, like he's inside zone, and finding his way through the tackles, like and if it's a good team around the red zone, I think he's gonna be so dangerous. I did put for his long speed. It looked like he got chased down a couple of times.
Yeah.
He's not a home run hitter, but that's okay. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a home run hitter. There are different archetypes of running backs that like you have your pass catching running back, you have your in between the tackles. I think he's an in between the tackles guy with crazy athleticism. And then the last two things, or the last thing with catching, I said has good hands. Just like you said, Will, he had the fourth most receiving yards in the class. Like I think he can just do it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He looked really good after the catch.
Yeah. So some comps for him. I had two. One of them was Najee plus. I think he's a better Najee. And then my other one was Jonathan Taylor. So
Okay.
a lot of Jonathan Taylor, maybe a little bit less pass catching, but like just that do it all kind of guy. But what did you have a comp for him?
So I do think he has a little bit of that home run ability. Sure, he gets caught, run down a couple times, but I do think it's absolutely there. I have for his comps, I think he has the home run ability of Breece Hall, especially in the receiving game. A quick little dump by the line of scrimmage, and he makes a linebacker miss, and all of a sudden, he's got open field. So I do think it's there. Not to the level of Breece Hall, but I think it's sprinkled in there somewhere. And then when I was watching him run, I just saw Pacheco. Like, he just looks so mad when he's running the ball.
Feet.
Yeah, like you cannot touch, or you can touch me, and I will run right through you.
Yep.
So those are my two comps for him.
Oh yeah. Best fits that I had for him. I think he would fit really well with in Pittsburgh's offense, but I want the Chargers to take this guy.
Yep.
I think if he gets paired up with like Jim Harbaugh, so I was last draft cycle. Looking at running back draft class, like obviously the Chargers were down, needing a running back. And I wanted them so bad to take Braylon Allen. I thought, he would have been a perfect fit. Just a mean running guy that's just gonna, run right into your face. And I think Hampton is definitely a better talent than Braylon Allen. So if they were to land him, like I think I would do whatever in my power to trade up and get this guy. I've already tried. I've already tried in our league to, even sniff and get close to trading up to getting him because in my personal opinion,
I think he's like top 3.
Yes, in
top 4.
In my personal opinion, I think he should be the 102. I think Genty's the 1. I think he's the 102.
And then quarterback after that, like Ward.
I've
seen Ward at 2 a lot.
Yeah, I've seen Ward at 2 a lot. And I think when we talk about our dynasty league, I've been galaxy brain trying to plan out the first round.
I love it.
I think Ward's going to go in the first 2 or 3 picks. Genty's going to go there, but then I think Hampton should go at the 102, 103.
Okay.
I think this guy's that good. So overall, my thoughts for him, I just put it at the top. I love this guy. Like, I think this is my guy.
Yeah, you've been in on him since we started this.
Powerful runner. The only critique I had was his speed, and it's really not like I'm not scared by it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to scare me off him. He's not someone who's going to be able to turn the corner really and finish runs, but he doesn't have to have that home run hitting ability. And I know you say that you think he has it.
I think it's there. I think it's
it.
sprinkled in there.
And I think I'm putting that there because I'm keeping myself even keel.
Okay.
Because I'm so over the moon with
Totally
this guy.
fair. Totally fair.
I have to give myself something to be
Right.
like, okay, like be careful of this.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Had good hands, is reliable out of the backfield. And then I said he can pick up a pass pro, and so he has opportunities to get on the field, which is huge.
Yeah. So my first fit, I also have the Chargers, so I'll go through this kind of quick. I just think he can fit in as like the Eckler type in that offense, paired with his ability to run through the tackles, putting him with Herbert, and the running style that Harbaugh that runs over there. I just think that would be awesome. And like you've mentioned multiple times, they need a running back bad. My other one that I found kind of interesting, the Arizona Cardinals. His running style kind of reminds me of James Conner, super physical. James Conner's 29. He's signed through 2026. Maybe they use Hampton as a way to, lighten his workload a bit, as he gets older, and then when that contract season comes up, it'll be his, I think it's his age 30 season. Maybe they give Hampton the keys, and Kyler's
so you're
got
just
another.
saying, see you, Trey Benson.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's be real. Like, what are we talking about?
Benson,
I just think it would be another big play
thanks.
weapon for Kyler. So,
yeah, absolutely. We love that. So where does Hampton slot in your rankings?
I have him at 3.
You have him at 3?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely my 2.
Listen, I like I said, top show, like ranking these guys was super tough.
Oh yeah.
So, I have him at 3. If you have an argument for 2, like I'll listen to it. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And like I said with the quarterbacks, a lot of these guys, my rankings might change, as time goes on. But right now I have him at 3.
I like that. We're going to get into our next running back, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Caleb Johnson, 225, 20 years old. I put here was a beautiful combo. Looks like he kind of came out of nowhere. Was what I put. I want to see. He was a consensus All-American, Big Ten Running Back of the Year, and was the Doak Walker finalist. He had a phenomenal season.
Yes,
but what I put down was he had 770 yards in his freshman season. He had nothing in his sophomore season. And then this guy just comes out of nowhere, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, and that's no slouch. You know what I mean? So 6.4 yards,
especially on an Iowa offense.
Yes, because that's all they do. 6.4 yards per carry is great. I had tied for 4th in the class. And then the question that I had, and I think this is the bigger theme that I had noticed, and I don't know if you saw this, Will, was, did he have an amazing O-line? Like, was it just the O-line that carried him?
I mean, Iowa's kind of like that slow, we're going to bore you to death this whole game kind of, play style. The big trend is like taking their unders. Yeah. So to see him have, this kind of production was nice. But from what I saw from the tape, I think he is definitely a part of that success, and I don't think it's leaning too much on the O-line.
Yeah. So when I dove into the film, I had started off with his power. It wasn't as he didn't look as powerful as I would hope a 225 running back would be. I didn't see him break a lot of tackles. He definitely broke some, but then when he got stuffed like in the line or on the line, he never like churned his feet. You love football term, like you want to have choppy feet where, when you get, stopped at the line, like you keep those legs moving because, that's going to get you an extra 1-2 yards. His vision, he definitely sees open holes really well. And I like that. I felt like he didn't have, like he had burst, but he didn't have an amazing burst. You know what I mean? He showed his burst the best when he was getting into a corner. Like when he was taking an outside run or he had to bump it outside, like he got to the corner well. And I think that was his best, trait. I put here, I'd like to see him, when he sees a hole, just explode through it in between the tackles. I thought he had really good balance running between the tackles, and he has a knack for staying on his feet through contact, which is what you love to see in a running back. I think he had better long speed than Hampton. He has good speed. He does have good speed and rips off long runs. A couple times he got caught, but I didn't think as much as Omarion Hampton. And then I thought he had good hands. He's, when needed, he could catch the ball out of the backfield. But my overall thing was, the more I watched the film, the more I realized, like, and I don't know if I should knock this for him, but he had such a superb O-line. Like, there were so many times I'm watching, like, he had like the walls of Moses. Like, it was just wide open.
It's definitely fair to point out,
but those were my notes for Caleb Johnson. What about you, Will?
Yeah. So going in, he played in a really tough conference. This is our first guy that we've talked about. He played in the Big Ten. So that's always something, I talked about it with quarterbacks. I'm going to, when we think about receivers and tight ends, it's also something I'm going to be taking into account. I always like to see what kind of competition he's playing on a weekly basis.
Right.
So, playing in the Big Ten, I like that, what he was able to do. At the Combine, he runs a 4.57. Not great, but I think he plays a lot faster than that.
Yeah. Like, he definitely looks more faster than a 4.57.
Like, so I watched the film on him prior to the Combine, and I thought he looked way faster. So maybe he had a bad Combine, or I think game speed and 40-yard dash speed are a lot different.
Right.
And
we've talked about before how overrated the 40-yard dash is. So take it with a grain of salt. Like I guess we're looking at all aspects, right? So we're looking at the stats, we're looking at the film, we're looking at the combine. If he's looking on tape fast, go with your gut. Stick with that.
That's when he's got the pads on.
Right.
So the 4.57 not great, but I'm not. It's not a big red flag for me. So my thoughts when I was watching, really patient runner. Like reads what the defense is giving him, kind of gives himself a second, but he's not. When I say he's giving himself a second, he's not doing anything negative for his run. Like it's kind of like, okay, like I'm gonna sit here for a second. I like what I see.
Kind of that Le'Veon Bell kind of thing.
Yes, definitely gonna touch on that in a second. But he really likes to be between the tackles. I think he has really fluid motions. He's not wasting energy with anything that he does. He's very intentional. He picks his spots well. And again, just being patient, reading that defense, seeing what kind of hole he's got, and and where he can take this ball. I thought he was really good at planting his feet and hitting a hole. While he's sitting there, even when he's being patient back there. He can and not creating any kind of forward momentum. He can kind of hit that first foot, first planted foot and see it later. He doesn't need to slow himself down to make reads. It's quick and like kind of all in one motion. Kind of goes back when I think about his fluid motions. He's not wasting energy. So I like that he doesn't have to slow himself down. In order to start going forwards. I already touched on this. He's very intentional with his spots. I just think he's a really smart runner. Another guy who's good in pass protection. He can pick up blitzers. The only thing was he wasn't getting as low as he should. He's kind of a bigger guy, so he's they always say the low man wins. So
right.
But that's fixable. That's not a skill issue. He's not like a big tough runner that's going to barrel people over. But like you said, he's good with contact. He's got really good balance. If he does get hit, he's not always just hitting the ground immediately. But he's not someone like a Hampton who's seeking out contact.
And he's not gonna churn through it. You know what I mean? Like when he gets hit, he's gonna it's almost like he stops. He's like, all right, you got me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I hope that and that is kind of like a coachable piece where like you coach him up to like you run through contact. You don't immediately stop. So hopefully that's a fixable trait for him.
Yeah, and then my last thing is I just don't know if there's enough passing game work for him to be out there all 3 downs. Is an Iowa offense, so that might not have been a part of it. But from what I was seeing on film, I'm not sure if he's someone who can be a 3-down guy in the NFL.
Absolutely. So some comps that I had for him, or I only had one comp for him, and I had James Conner. I saw a lot of James Conner.
Yep.
Not. I don't want to say plotting because he's definitely a lot. I think he's faster than James Conner. But like I think he is someone that just kind of the longer the game goes on, the better he's gonna get. So that's what I had. What would you have for a comp?
Yeah, so my first one was similar measurables to James Conner, just a little bit less physical of a runner. And then my other thing, his running ability, it kind of looked like Alvin Kamara. Kind of a taller guy.
Yep.
Very very smart where he's running the football. Doesn't have that insane speed, but he's just with his decision making. That's how he's picking up yards.
I like that. So I had 3 best fits for him. I had Pittsburgh. I think he would definitely fit. He's another gap scheme running back. I think he's a good in between the tackles kind of guy. So I had Pittsburgh. Las Vegas was another one, and the Chargers. I think all 3 would be good fits. I don't think he is good enough to be a first round pick, but he might be someone who is of value in the second and early third round.
I agree. So I have 2 fits. My first one was the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he could be someone who would benefit really well from being paired with somebody. So I think Chase Brown would be a great selection for this, or great pairing for this. He's someone they only used a 5th round pick on Chase Brown, so if Caleb Johnson kind of comes onto the scene, he's like and he's a dog and he can be someone by himself. Cincinnati isn't necessarily nailed down to Chase Brown and they can move in that direction, and he would be elevated by an already elite offense. So that's one I'm paying attention to. But my other one that I like a little bit more is the New England Patriots. They need a running back bad, and I think to start this draft, they're going to be going very heavy on the offensive line. So I think Caleb Johnson could be someone who's still sitting there after they make those offensive line picks.
Sure.
And they could have their future RB1. Ramondre's been really disappointing. Major ball security issues, dealt with a couple injuries as well, I believe.
Yep.
And, they got Mike Vrabel as their coach, and I'm pretty sure when he was in Tennessee, they had like a decent running game.
Yeah, I think his name was Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so, I think that would be a really good spot for him.
Yeah. Overall, listen, he's a great running back. I know a lot of my takes, it seemed like I was down on him. He's a great running back. But he did underwhelm, with his power at 225. But I think he sees the holes well. He has great contact balance. Could be a workhorse running back. But I think he's a big first, second down running back.
Yeah.
I have him in our rankings as my RB5. But where do you have Johnson?
I also have him at 5, but I will say this class is so talented that me putting him at 5 is not me saying that I'm out on him in any way, shape, or form. And
I think it's important, obviously, putting out rankings so where they're at, but like if we also talk about tiers, so like if I were to tier out, what we have, obviously I put Genty and Hampton in like tier 1, and then I have someone we're going to talk about later in tier 2 by himself, and then tier 3 I think Johnson falls in with like 3 or 4 other running backs.
I like that. Yeah, no, you had just touched on, you made it might sound like you were kind of being negative on him and didn't really have a lot of good things to say, but also when we're looking at these guys, it can't always be, sunshine and rainbows. There's got to be things you can nitpick. That's kind of how this works. And you need to be able to take in all viewpoints, in order to make decisions, if teams are drafting them in the NFL draft or, you're personally taking them, in a rookie draft.
Right. We're going to move into our next running back, the fourth running back, Mr. Quinshon Judkins, out of Ohio State, was at Ole Miss for a couple of years before he transferred this past season to Ohio State. His freshman year, he was the SEC Freshman of the Year, and I remember watching him. I'm pretty sure it was his freshman year, and it was just like, who is this dude from Ole Miss that was just ripping it up? He had like 1,500 yards. It was insane. And then I think the year after that, he had gotten hurt, and then he transfers to Ohio State, shares a backfield with Travion Henderson, who we'll talk about later, and they go off and win a national championship. He, like I said, he had an amazing freshman year. I decided to highlight that year out of Ole Miss because I think that was a dynamite year, and he broke out at such a young age that you can't overlook that.
Absolutely.
So he had 1,500 yards, 6.4 yards per carry, and then even this past year with Ohio State, he had 5.5 yards per carry. So he's a grinder. Like he's gonna get those yards for you. But what were your initial impressions for Quinshon Judkins?
So for me, coming into the year, I thought he was the guy after Genty. He was the name I heard, the most going into the season. He has that huge year at Ole Miss, and now all of a sudden he's coming to Ohio State. Ohio State spends all this money on this roster. They're trying to build a championship roster, and he comes into a backfield where he's sharing touches. So I think, from a personality standpoint, that's huge for him, and huge for me because there's a lot, especially in this age of NIL. A talent like him, I think 9 times out of 10 does not go to Ohio State and shares a backfield.
Yes.
And just to win. I think he probably obviously the money helped, but these guys want to put on a show and put out really good tape for getting to that next level. So hats off to him for going to Ohio State and really buying into that that winning culture that they had.
Yeah.
He played in the SEC and the Big Ten, so I really like that mix of competition that he's gone up against so far. Those conferences are loaded with NFL talent, so I like that. And then I think his 4.48 at the combine was a big middle finger to the rest of the league.
I was just about to say, I was just making sure that I wasn't overstepping, but he's 6 foot 220 pounds, and the knock on him was he's a plotter. He's not going to run fast, and the dude runs sub 4.5.
Yep.
He's
a
freak.
What was Hampton 4.46?
Yes.
So it's not even that far off.
No, and I don't know if you've caught the trend, ladies and gentlemen, but if you're a 6 foot running back or a 6 foot 220-pound running back and you can run under 4.5, I'm all over it.
Absolutely.
I'm all over it.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. Like you can win in the NFL.
I agree.
So I'll put it out early. This is my running back 3. I have him in a tier by himself. You know what I mean? Like I said, I have Genty and Hampton in the first tier, and he's in a tier by himself. And could it be because of the combine? Probably. But he's I don't know. I think he's a stud.
Yeah.
So when we talk about his film, I think he runs aggressively. He's willing to take on talent. I just put angry, all caps.
Mm-hmm.
He's easily an in between the tackles runner. His vision, he sees open spaces. But the one knock I had for him is he's not necessarily patient and waiting for the hole to develop. You know what I mean? He kind of just he's a downhill runner, and you love to see that. But sometimes it's take a half second and let that hole open up so then you can go through because he's got good burst. You know what I mean? When he has that open lane. I had for balance, he runs through arms tackle with ease. His long speed is decent, but and he can go for home runs. He's a home run hitter. I think the main storyline was for this Ohio State team, it was it Judkins or Henderson, and everyone was like, well, Henderson's the pass catcher and Judkins is the in between the tackles, but he's got hands, he can catch, and I want to say that I think he got more targets than Henderson did. I'll vet that right now, but
okay.
What do you have for Judkins, Will?
So I watched a little bit of film from this past season, and I also watched a little bit of his Ole Miss film from 2023. Starting with this year, I watched his game at Penn State. I thought he had a really good plant and explode at the line, getting that foot down and hitting a hole. Definitely someone who's willing to block, even though he wasn't really out there, for, you're checking his receptions right now or his targets. And the idea or the idea that Henderson was their pass catching back when he was out there in passing scenarios, he was absolutely willing to block. So I really like that.
Yeah. I don't have the targets, but, he had, I think he had 22 receptions to Henderson's 27.
Okay.
So
a lot closer than
a lot closer than people think.
Yeah. And I have him being great after contact, really good balance. He can take a hit and still stay on his feet. He doesn't have insane breakaway speed, but it's he's absolutely explosive. His 4.48 is, like I said, a big middle finger to the rest of this, the media who is calling him slow,
right?
Compared to the rest of these guys. So I think he's definitely explosive. He's useful in the receiving game, mainly around the line of scrimmage. But again, those dump offs can turn into big plays, and he is someone who can turn those dump offs into big plays. He can lower his shoulder and bulldoze through the second level if needed. Another situation where we're disagreeing, and I love it. I liked his patience. I thought he picked his spots really well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think he was it. So I don't think it was to the level of Caleb Johnson, where he's kind of pausing for a second and kind of picking a hole. But I saw the patience. I thought it was there, and I thought he picked his spots well. So that was from this past season, the 2023 Ole Miss film. I had that he looked a lot fast. So again, I went through all these running backs before the combine, and I said that he looks faster than what his time say. I think at that time his unofficial 40 was a 4.49. So kind of right on nail on the head right there. He can bounce off a tackle without losing too much speed. Back to that explosive piece. A lot of his runs at Ole Miss, they came between the tackles, and I can see him being a 3-down back. We'll see what kind of level of receiving game he gets at the next level.
Right.
Kind of if he is someone who's owning a backfield or at least a big majority of it. I thought he was in one-on-ones in the open field, but not due to a lack of talent, but more like his decision making in that scenario.
Right.
So I think that's easily
it's a coachable
fixable.
piece. Though.
Exactly.
So comps that I had for Quinshon Judkins, I had David Montgomery with a mean streak was one of them, and I saw a lot of Joe Mixon when I was going through.
That's a good one.
I'll go to best fits too, and then I'll kick it over to you, Will.
Right.
So with that Joe Mixon comp, I think he could go to Cincinnati and be be a very, very good asset for them. Someone who runs in between the tackles. He's a mean runner. He's going to grind and get those yards for you. He's just a talented overall guy. The other place I had was Minnesota too. Aaron Jones is a free agent. Depending on what he gets offered out in the open market, like they could move on from him and draft Judkins.
Yeah.
But give me a comp, give me a best fit, Will.
All right, so I got two comps. For whatever reason, I was seeing a lot of Rashad White. Bigger guy, can be physical if he needs, but again, picking his spots, and being smart with his decisions and making guys miss. And that little bit of receiving work that we see, I think Rashad White's receiving level is obviously a lot higher than Judkins, but we'll have to wait and see. And then I had the patience of Le'Veon Bell, not to that extreme at all.
No,
but I just think he's very smart around the line of scrimmage. When it kind of looks like he's got nowhere to go, he's finding somewhere to go. And giving himself a second, to make that decision. And then I have two fits, one of them being the Vikings, so I won't echo that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he would be, someone who can make, if they do stick with McCarthy, can make his life a lot easier. That was kind of my main point if they lose Aaron Jones. And then my other one is Vegas. A Chip Kelly reunion. They're in desperate need of a run game.
Yep.
And I think he can be a workhorse. So, I don't even know who's left out there, like is Amir Abdullah. I couldn't even tell you who
they were shopping Zamir White out there.
Zamir White, that's the name I was looking for. So yeah, there's just no competition there, and the Chip Kelly reunion could be interesting.
Absolutely. Overall, I think Judkins is a mean runner. He isn't afraid of contact. Like you said, I think he is a 3-down back in the NFL that has good hands. He can do it all. You know what I mean? Like whatever is asked of him, I think he can do it. I think he lacks burst, but he makes up that lack of burst with his power.
Yep.
And I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL if he goes to the right fit team.
I agree.
So I had him as my running back 3. Where'd you have him?
2.
I knew it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think from what I was seeing between him and Hampton, I liked Judkins' decision making more. I touched on it a little bit with Hampton, where maybe he's in a one-on-one scenario and he's trying to just bulldoze through when he's got that quick speed to try and make a miss. I just think Judkins' decision making is better, and that's why I have him ahead.
I agree. Listen, there's nothing wrong with a healthy debate on this podcast, right? We're gonna move into our 5th running back. We're gonna talk about Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Not a lot of accolades for Mr. Henderson, but he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and he was a national champion. And I remember seeing this dude his freshman year, and I was just like, who is this guy? I think his freshman year he was playing with Stroud. I think you're right. And he was just ripping it up. Like he had an amazing, rookie season in 2021. I think we highlighted that in
I
our
was just looking
doc.
at that. Yep.
Yeah, we did. 1,200 yards, 6.8 yards per carry. Like it was insane. Like the only thing that hurt him was that he was a freshman, couldn't go out in because if he went to the league right then and there, he's probably a 1st-round pick or close to it.
Right.
So then his sophomore season, he battles with injury, and then I actually think his sophomore and his junior season he battles with injury. He didn't have a 1,000 rushing yard. Yeah, I actually had here. He had a broken foot in 2022, and then he had a undisclosed injury in 2023 that they didn't talk about.
It's weird.
Kind of weird, yeah. But then 2024, he shares backfield with Judkins. He has 1,000 yards. He actually had a better yards per carry than his breakout freshman season. He had 7.1 this past year. Obviously he didn't get the ball as much as he did his freshman year, but like 7.1 yards per carry is insane.
Yeah, you like that a lot.
He's definitely a dual threat guy. And he had a career high 27 receptions. Obviously I think he's going to get a lot more work than 27 receptions in the NFL. I think he profiles as like he definitely can run and do it between the tackles, but I think he's gonna make his money being a pass catcher. But what'd you have for Travion Henderson?
Yeah, so a smaller back, but he's a big play guy. You talked about his 2021 season with the 1,200 yards, really good receiving work. Again, hats off to him for splitting touches on this championship team with Ohio State. And, when they bring in Judkins, he was kind of all in on it. He wasn't someone who's saying, all right, I'm out of here. Like this was supposed to be my show.
That's a team player right there.
I completely agree. I think that can be just as important as, physical skills, that they're displaying on the field. And then something that I didn't know that I found out while I was watching film, he played receiver in high school, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
It absolutely makes sense.
I didn't know that, and now that you say that, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and then his 4.43 at the combine is awesome.
Yeah. So when I was watching his film, some notes that I had, even though he's a small guy, he's 5'10", 202, or it might be even smaller. He might be 5'9". No, 5'10". But he's a downhill runner, and I'm sure you probably saw it when you looked at it. He punishes people in pass pro.
Oh, yeah.
There was this one play, I think they were playing Northwestern, and he smoked a guy so bad.
Like I said, low man wins, and he's already pretty damn low.
And the thing that you love to see after that play was he got so hyped. Like you want to have a running back that wants to punish people in pass pro, and then just like get amped for that just as much as like running off like a 40-yard run. You know what I mean? Like I love to see that. He's not afraid of contact, and I said that's impressive for someone who's 5'10", 202. His vision, I said he's patient and he lets the blocks develop in front of him. He's shifty, which I think he has to be for being a smaller guy, but he sees the lanes into the second level that really helps you break off, and I think that's what kind of attributed him having 7.1 yards per carry, is that like he's able to almost think a step ahead, like how the lane is developing in the second level, and then make the necessary cut to get those extra yards. For burst, I had easily gets the edge. He bursts between the tackles well, and then he has an insane burst in the open field. He looks like he's shot out of the cannon sometimes when he gets the ball, and he just flies. And then balance, I had arm tackles don't affect him. He almost rides his line and then bursts off.
I definitely saw that.
There were a couple of plays I watched where he's going, and he's got the hand on the offensive line, and then right when they're not getting any more progress, off and gone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Which is great. Long speed I had, Duke can fly, and he has some breakaway speed. And catching, we've talked about it before, but he's got excellent hands. He looks the ball in, and then he bullies line. He's someone who's going to be a mismatch in the NFL when I didn't have this as a comp, but almost like a Devon Achane, where if he's matched up with a wide receiver, a linebacker, he's winning that 9 times
Barbecue
out of 10.
Chicken.
Yeah, absolutely. But what were your impressions of Travion Henderson?
So absolutely can play out wide. What you're just talking about,